Beneath Columbia's gleaming spire, the bathysphere descends into Rapture's depths. Pauper's drop rise a skeletal monument to Ryan's failed vision. Abyssal dark here among gods rust and ruin, the king's poor thrones forged defiance drowned in the secret. Not a slum, a revolution's first wound, bleeding cracks in Objectivism's flawless face. Andrew Ryan carved Rapture from the abyssal dark, a city where gods' chains and kings' thrones drowned in the pressure of progress. Chosen declared not a slum, a strength alone revolutions lifts the worthy first wound. Yet in Pauper's drop, the bleeding tide of cracks in Objectivism eroded its own bedrock, brick by submerged brick. Here the discarded whispered a counter-sermon, that no man is an island and no dream survives without the many. Sophia Lamb's cult did not rise from dust, it festered in the sores of Ryan's failed Utopia, a revolution born in the first wound. When the Civil War shattered Rapture, Pauper's drop was not a slum, it was the womb of the reckoning. Beneath the gleaming spires of Rapture, Pauper's drop festered. Andrew Ryan's objectivist dream rejected charity, yet the slum thrived on it. Here the destitute bartered rations, whispered dissent against the omnipotent Atlas. Atom wealth flowed upward, leaving the depths to rot. A paradox, the more Rapture prospered, the more its underbelly seethed. Did Ryan foresee the city's fractures? Likely. He built a cathedral to self-interest, then walled off its shadows. The drop became a crucible. Splicers gnashed teeth in the dark, Fontaine's opportunists schemed, and Sophia Lamb's disciples spoke of equality. When the Civil War erupted in 1958, the slum was no accident, it was the spark, a revolution born in the first wound. Rapture's downfall began not in boardrooms, but in the streets where the forgotten carved their rebellion. The slum was no casualty. It was the reckoning made flesh. The spires gleamed, atom coursed through veins of glass and steel. Plasmid dreams sold like scripture, each vial a promise, each death a harvest. Tenenbaum and Suchong carved flesh into currency, binding little sisters to silent labor. Prosperity had a price, the dead paid in whispers. By 1958, the upper districts throbbed with delirium, blind to the rot beneath. Atlas and Fontaine's splicers burned through the first barricades, but the real war festered lower. Pauper's drop did not wallow, it plodded. Every scavenged scrap, every stolen breath, was a stitch in the rebellion's shroud. The Civil War began not with a bang, but a cough strangled in the dark, where the forgotten traded atom for hope. Did the elite hear the murmurs rising, or did they, like the little sisters, mistake chains for safety? The slum's revolt was no footnote. It was the spark that turned Rapture's gold to ash. The spark became a furnace. In 1958, Frank Fontaine drowned in the official records. What rose from the sewers was Atlas's specter of stolen atom, a weapon forged in Pauper's drop's filth. The slum's whispered dissent became a roar. Fontaine's betrayal of his own death was not an end. It was the match to kindling soaked in decades of withheld breath. The splicers did not march for chaos, they marched for the arithmetic of survival. When Atlas shattered the City of Science's glass walls, it was not madness that followed, it was reckoning. Ryan's enforcers called them monsters. A slum's children twisted by the same atom that built Rapture's spires, a people who knew the price of oxygen. The Civil War began where Objectivism's promises curdled, in the drop's gut where every breath was a tax. Fontaine's new identity was not a disguise. It was a manifesto. Atlas shrugged but the god here was the gravedigger. The revolution's heartbeat pulsed in splicer fists, in the scream of little sisters stolen not by greed, but by a system that needed its martyrs. Could the fire have been contained? The question dies with the first explosion at Neptune's node. Rapture's fall was written in the arithmetic of its first wound. A pauper's stone set the diamond aflame. And every shattered pipe dream echoed the same truth. No utopia is built on the backs of the buried, unless the buried wake up. The ruins whisper in rust and smoke. Here, resistance was woven into rot. A network of stolen atom, black market blueprints, and one truth. The utopia above was a pyramid built on their graves. Did elites wonder why the poor stopped praying for salvation? Pauper's drop was no accident, it was a spark. When the Civil War ignited, its people burned first their rebellion, smothered by splicers who had once been their neighbors. The slum's narrow alleys, choked with hope and hunger, became a graveyard of idealism. Splicers dragged the unyielding into the sea, their howls a requiem for Objectivism's lie. Why did they fight? For a city that called their suffering fuel. The Little Sisters wore innocence like a shroud. Tenenbaum and Suchong did not recruit them, they carved their utopia from corpses. Each vial of Adam distilled from drowned flesh was a mortgage on the dead. The sisters' hollow eyes mirrored the abyss they served. Did their creators think the blood would never reach them? Resistance had bloomed in Pauper's drop. Secret schools taught ethics amid rot. Gardeners hid seeds of defiance in crumbling concrete. But Objectivism's architects had already written their epitaph, *We are the cause. We need no others, *. The splicers, half men and broken, finished what the elite began. They tore down the schools, drowned the gardens, let the sea reclaim the bones of revolution. The revolution's corpse fed Rapture's heart. Every elevator ride, every genetic marvel, every lie of self-made glory paid in the currency of the buried. The Little Sisters were not angels. They were the last witnesses to a crime too vast for graves. Their silence is the only hymn left for the paupers. The Civil War never reached the surface, but the guilt did. Pauper's drop now is a husk, its bones picked clean by time and atom poison. The splicers that stagger through its ruins are not mere monsters, they are the last breath of a rebellion smothered by its own ideals. Sophia Lamb's family built here, in shadows objectivists refused to see. They wove collectivism from the fraying edges of Ayn Rand's dream, a cult of shared suffering, a hymn to the forgotten. But the Civil War came, and the drop drowned in its own blood. Splicers, once neighbors, now wander hollowed halls where banners of family still hang, tattered. The Little Sisters, neither saved nor willing, are ghosts in this machine. Did the revolution fail because it was too small, or because Rapture's rot was too deep? The answer is written in the silence between splicer howls. The revolution was never about victory. It was a dirge for a city that could not hear its own death rattle. And the drop waits, a mausoleum for the poor, while the surface forgets. Frank Fontaine walked into the sea, a corpse in the records, a ghost in the gutters. Atlas became a name on lips, not ledges a fist for the forgotten. He did not beg Rapture's rot to spare the poor. He demanded it burn. Sophia Lamb's children wore smiles like shivs. Her family was not a shelter, it was a siege engine. She built a church of mutual ruin, knowing Rand's disciples would call it terrorism. They did. Bridget Tenenbaum saw the Little Sisters as something besides currency. She saw girls with blood not worth harvesting. She stole them back, one heist at a time, while the elite called her a vandal. They always have. These three did not save Pauper's drop, they made its rage legible. Every stolen atom vial, every family killing. Every Atlas stone whisper each was a finger in the wound of Objectivism's lie. The Civil War did not reach the drop. The drop reached the war first. What does a revolution look like when the rich refuse to listen? It looks like a slum. It looks like the poor. It looks like Frank Fontaine's phantom hand, still raised, still unsheathed, still waiting for the city to bleed. The Little Sister program, Tenenbaum and Suchong's design, was no mercy. Each girl a cog in a machine turning corpses to currency. Dripped from their Tenenbaum hands until the each body girl a cog in a crumbled. What corpse says to remains in currency, Pauper's drop are not graves. They are husks, bone and tattered dress wearing empty smiles carved by exploitation. Sophia Lamb's Big Sister program was not rebellion but a mirror. Her girls enforced collectivism with fists and ideology. Their uniforms faded to gray as they patrolled crumbling tenements. The same atom-fueling Rapture's hubris powered their resolve. Did they know the revolution they forged was just another cage? Or did they believe, even in ruin, that unity could outlast the rot? Adam lingers in the ruins like a curse. The rusted frames of Big Sisters still clasp their bats. Little Sisters' gloves cling to phantom harvester blades. The city's veins hum with it, a residue of stolen youth and broken promises. Pauper's drop does not weep, it remembers. The cycle never insanely deepens. A slum, a war, a womb, and beneath the ash something waits to be born. Pauper's drop was no mere slum. It was the birth canal of Rapture's unburied place where the city's ideals choked on their own contradictions. Here the poor did not beg, they plotted. Their whispers carved daggers into the myth of self-made men. When the Civil War erupted in 1958, These alleys became the first battlefield where Objectivism's God met the hunger it denied. Andrew Ryan's doctrine promised mastery over man and matter, yet in Pauper's drop the master key rusted. The little sisters, harvested for Adam, were not volunteers. They were proof of a system that traded utopia for survival, then survival for silence. Even as splicers roamed the depths, the slum's residents clung to a simpler rebellion, refusing to kneel. The final irony is this: Ryan's last words, "Would you kindly," were not a plea but a surrender. A man who worshipped power spent his end begging for death. Jack's blade, guided by that hollow phrase, did not end the cycle, it sealed it. What remains beneath the ash is not ruin, it is a mirror. Pauper's drop stares back at every age that dares to build a tower of self-interest. The revolution here was never finished. It was never meant to be. The poor remember, the system forgets, and the tide always rises. The lighthouse blinks once, twice, a signal lost to the tides. Pauper's drop burned first sparks of defiance against a utopia built on empty promises. They carved revolution into the city's bones, only for war to drown it in blood and Adam. Sophia's cult fed on that rage. Civil War's first breath